The receipt with my name and no total. The receipt wasn't printed on the thermal paper that curls like a leaf in summer. It was thicker, with a faint pattern of concentric circles, like a target that had changed careers. In the corner, a neat timestamp, 6:51 p.m. in the middle where the total should live. Someone had typed two words in clean cashier font, 4ETHAN. That's my name, but I had only ordered a glass of water, which, by the laws of people who try to be decent, is free. I told the bartender I'd pay for it anyway. He smiled like men who have seen enough faces to know when not to argue. "It's already covered," he said. "Somebody said to pass this along." He tapped the paper. "If it's a mistake, it's the kind that buys you time." I work a few blocks away at a printing shop that still respects the way ink smells when it intends something. I spend most days trimming edges until they mind their own business. I had walked in here to stall the evening. At home, Liam would be arranging microphones for a podcast that pays in gratitude. I didn't want to interrupt the last hour of his quiet. We've been together 6 years, which is long enough to know where the good forks are and to avoid the word always, unless the topic is dish soap. I turned the receipt over. On the back, in black pen and careful block letters, "If you still tell the truth, 7:10 back booth, P. bring water." It had no theater in it, just an appointment with a minute hand and a promise of hydration. There were two back booths. In one, a couple negotiated the size of their kindness in voices calibrated to seem small. In the other sat a man with tired posture and a bike helmet hanging off his bag like an extra apology. He had set two empty plastic cups upside down, as if he'd been practicing the idea of a meeting. He didn't look up when I arrived, which made me curious instead of suspicious. "Are you P?" I asked. He lifted his eyes the way lights come up after an intermission, not sudden, just there. "Patrick," he said, but the letter felt less presumptuous. "You're Ethan." "And this is," I held up the receipt. "A poor man's invitation," he said. "I used to write poems. Now I work stage lighting for people who don't notice that not being blinded is a gift. The receipt was my compromise." He unfolded a small, cloth-covered notebook and laid it on the table with the gentleness you reserve for instruments or confessions. On the first page, stamped in the kind of font that looks like it knows how to behave, were the words "provisional rules." Beneath them, "No nostalgia as evidence." If either of us says water, we pause. No theatrical exits. If one of us needs to go, we go, not perform. Kindness outvotes spectacle. Sit only where an exit can be seen. "These keep shows from injuring audiences," he said, tapping the page. "Turns out they keep conversations from injuring people too." I added a sixth line in the corner. 6. If we become cowards, we say so in the present tense. He nodded, not in agreement exactly, but like a bolt finally deciding to stay put. "Why me?" I asked. I didn't mean for it to sound like an accusation, just a request for a map. "You trimmed a poster for me last week," he said, looking at his hands. "I watched you use a smaller frame than the art insisted on. It made the image breathe. I thought maybe you do that to people." "Sometimes," I said. "Sometimes I overcut." "Me too," he said, with light. He pushed one of the cups toward me. "Water." We drank. The silence that followed wasn't heavy. It was like a technician standing by the dimmer, ready to nudge without a speech. He told me about the shows he worked, one-man plays where the man had too many lives, musicals with more fog than melody. I told him about the afternoon I spent coaxing a photo from a frame that wanted to eat it, how I chose a border so narrow the image had to behave. "Does Liam know you're here?" he asked, not as a test but as a ground wire check. "He knows I stopped for a drink," I said. "He also knows how I drink, cautiously with water. "Good policy," he said. Then, almost shyly, "Would you try an exercise with me? 3 lines each, what we save, what we avoid, no heroic adjectives." He slid the notebook over. I wrote, "I save the size of our dinners, the chair near the door, the way Liam says, 'Let's wait.' I avoid always, avoid frames that suffocate, avoid using memory as a gavel." Patrick wrote his 3 lines, folded the page, and tucked it under the receipt as if he were sealing a letter. We met again a week later on a bench near the river. He brought 2 mandarins and a canvas bag that said "Courtesy Lights." "For your kitchen when the winter remembers itself," he said. I laughed. I had brought a mat board with an empty window, the kind you can slide a word into, then change it monthly. I'd written air for January, exit for February, patience for March. He liked the idea of seasons that asked politely. "It sounds like we're building a walkway," he said. "Something people can cross without falling in love with the bridge." "Walkways are underrated," I said. "So is saying water before not fair." The day the phone call came, I forgot we were supposed to be building anything. It was my mother's voice, then a different voice explaining the kind of fall that breaks a femur even when you do everything slowly. I texted Liam water from the hospital bench. He wrote back 2 cups waiting and a heart he pretends he learned for me but actually learned for himself. Patrick sent a photo of 2 cups on a dark stage, captioned, "Also water." I stayed 3 nights, slept in a chair that remembered better eras. My mother woke from surgery with a line I keep in my wallet. "It doesn't burn anymore." I wrote my 3 lines on a napkin. "Save the way nurses put blankets on like sentences. Avoid telling pain how to feel. Save the silence that keeps elevators honest." When I got home, the apartment felt like a stage after the audience decides to clap in time. 2 glasses on the table. Liam's soft "You're here." My grateful "Yes." Weeks turned the way careful pages do. Patrick and I continued the evening rule of 3 lines, like 2 electricians checking the panel before closing up. We met sometimes on the circular bus that runs forever around the city, because he liked that conversations could step off without drama. "Shows should end like buses arrive," he said one night. "You don't bow, you stand." "How does Liam feel about buses?" he asked once. "Does he hate our rules?" "He likes that we have them," I said. "He made a new one for the fridge. Words get put away clean, like tools." "Good rule," he said, a smile twitching at the edges. "I leave mine on the floor sometimes." "Then you step on them and think you've been attacked," I said. We laughed. People do better when given permission to set down the hammer. There was a lunch, the 3 of us. I dreaded it and wanted it, which I guess means I'm still human. We picked a place that cooked like it had seen storms and decided to stay warm anyway. We sat near the aisle, Rule 5 disguised as casual preference. We ate. We talked about how to be people, the kind who turn lamps off with respect, who change frames when images can't breathe, who pour water before anything dramatic has a chance to pretend it's necessary. Liam thanked Patrick for the invisible electricity of polite light. Patrick thanked Liam for the borders he keeps at home. I thanked both of them for staying in the room without asking for a second stage. A woman came into the print shop one afternoon with a family photograph and 3 pronouns worth of uncertainty. "I don't know if framing it is an act of war or of love," she said. I showed her a narrow mat, left air around her people like a gift. "This way, no one gets pushed against the glass," I said. She looked at the photo the way you look at a person who's been given a gentler name. "You framed the time, not the moment," she said, and I stole that sentence for later use. If this were the kind of story that knows how to climax, here is where I'd place a kiss under a blue sign that says nothing about angels. If it were a morality play, I'd give you a tidy commandment about honesty. It isn't either. It's a manual of small motions. Two men learning to say water before unfair. Another man making sure the apartment knows how to be a house. A receipt that buys time instead of beverages. Spring showed up like it had been throwing rocks at my window for weeks. Patrick texted me a 3-second audio clip. Stage lights dimming from 20% to 10%, the exact thrum of mercy. I sent back a photo of a book's spine realigned with Japanese paper and glue measured by patience. He replied, "Also this holds," and I wrote the same under his clip. That was our favorite catechism. Also this holds. One bus ride stalled for longer than patience expected. No one sighed loudly. Patrick filled the pause with 2 cups and the shrug of a man who has been paid by crises to be gentle. A teenager nearby was crying. He handed him water the way you hand someone permission not to explain. The boy took it, nodded, kept the cup like a talisman. The bus moved. No one clapped. There are so many forms of applause I no longer respect. I began to think of the receipt as a seed you can tape to the corner of a day. I kept it in a book where the binding had given up and waited for me to teach it how to last. One night I added a line to the rules for me and Liam. Promises must fit in a jacket pocket. We tried it for a week and discovered that trying not to carry too much made us want to walk farther. "Do you think I'm ridiculous?" I asked Liam at the sink, where I keep my better questions. "Buses and rules and cups." "I think you're a man who decided to write down how not to make a mess," he said. "An excellent choice. Say water again." So I did, and he poured, and we drank, and the dishes learned that suddenly they weren't urgent. On a Thursday that had ambitions of Friday, I found another receipt tucked under the cash drawer. Same paper, same font. For P, I didn't take a picture. I didn't paste it to anything. I left it on the counter like a napkin for whoever needed it next. The best receipts are the ones that don't specify what they're purchasing, I wrote in my notebook and laughed at my own earnestness. Patrick brought a small box to the shop in December that said courtesy lights. Inside were 2 clip-on lamps small enough to be mistaken for humility. "For your winter picnics," he said, "in case the park forgets how to be a park." I gave him a pre-cut window mat, told him to print a new word for it each month. He hung enough in it for January and sent a photograph. I hung return in hours and felt my spine settle down. When my mother called in March to report walking, slow, practical, triumphant, I wanted to throw a parade of modest chairs. Instead, I texted 2 words to both men. Still water, because even the truths we already know like to be told as if they're fresh. Liam walked into the kitchen and set 2 glasses on the table. Patrick sent a recording of a dimmer quietly becoming night. I added a line to my mat and set it on the shelf. "Welcome." A sign I keep forgetting we all need. Tonight the bar where the first receipt found me smells like it did then. Citrus and wood like a kindly bookcase. I'm here to wait up for Liam because his show runs long, to give patience a job so it'll stay. I print copies of the rules sometimes for people I don't know and tuck them into frames they choose for other lives. I don't tell them what they're for. I don't label the exit. I just mention where it is and let the rest of the room do its work. Before I leave, I slide the receipt out of the book and look at the 2 words in the center again. They mean more than free. They mean time and consideration, and do it right. I want that for other people more than I want it for me, which is either sainthood or finally growing up, and it doesn't matter which. Back home, Liam will ask, "What did you fix today?" And I'll say, "A frame that forgot it was a frame." He'll laugh and say, "Water." And I'll answer, "Yes." And we'll drink the way people do when they know almost everything and still choose to speak in the present tense. If another receipt shows up under our door with someone else's name, we'll make 2 cups and place them on the table and sit near the exit until it gets claimed. We won't perform it. We'll let it be nothing. And that will be, I think, the point.